Before we get to the Viking Update show, the highly anticipated Viking Update show, I did want to let you know that our first live show at the Mississippi Pub will be on Sunday, 7 p.m. That'll be after the evening practice. We are working with the Mississippi Pub because it's such a perfect location for fans who want to find lunch or dinner or drinks before, during, and after the training camp practices. You can go to the morning session, you can pop over to the Mississippi Pub for lunch. You can go to the afternoon session, you can pop over to the Mississippi Pub for drinks or dinner. It is officially at 4455 66th Street East, Inver Grove Heights, 55076. I recommend using GPS because it's so right on top of the river that it's kind of hidden from view. It's behind a grove of trees. It's right on the marina, right on the river, a big patio. Check out their website, Mississippi Pub. Again, pop over there for our show. Pop over there any other time. Very good food, very fun, casual atmosphere. Check out their website at MississippiPub.com if you want to see photos and check out their menu. The network, we have a lot going on right now. We're doing the Russo show at Delano's Pizza. We're doing Cheryl Reeves' show at the Free House. We've been packing those joints. We would like to pack Mississippi Pub just as much. And if you'd like to, host one of our other shows like the Roy Smalley Show or something else, email me, jsouhan47@gmail.com. Thanks to Brandon Morton, our longtime producer. Here we are, on to the Viking Update show. We just toured the new Vikings Museum at TCO Performance Center, and I just kept waiting to see the Tim Yotter exhibit. There just wasn't one, and I'm disappointed. That's what I would pay to see.
Well, even Sid only just had a little picture that was included with a
Couldn't we get through one tour of the Vikings facility without somebody sucking up to Sid?
I know.
Couldn't we do that?
It was pretty funny. Basically, the way it was worded, though, led me to believe that they weren't exactly convinced that the way Sid tells the story.
Yeah, they quoted Sid. They didn't say, this is fact. They said, well, Sid says, because, it's great. If you talk to any of the old Minneapolis Lakers, Sid likes to paint himself as the general manager, brought this great team together. Yeah. He was the general manager in a business sense. He kind of helped run the finances of the team. He wasn't picking players. Right. He's not, and they of course gave him credit for bringing on Bud Grant.
Right, yeah.
And Bud Grant was his best friend. Yeah. He wasn't selling him as the greatest NBA player of all time. He was saying, give my best friend a job.
And you never hear about the 99 other players that Sid probably told every organization that they have to draft, and they didn't, or the guy fell off the radar.
We're supposed to be doing a Viking show, and I immediately digress into Sid's stories. I apologize to all of our listeners. This is the Viking Update show. I'm Jim Souhan. The star of the show is Tim Yotter, publisher of Viking Update, VikingUpdate.com. I want to welcome on a couple of new sponsors. WhizKids, a really cool company, downtown Minneapolis, not far from where I live. Again, it is a local company. Been talking with Michael Thanert. He's, luckily for us, he's a big fan of the podcast. He's going to be sponsoring the Viking Update show, the Michael Russo show, and the Roy Smalley show. Let's face it, he's a lot smarter than I am. So I want to tell you about his business, but I have to make sure I say things properly because this is all stuff that's way above my intellectual level, but it is a locally owned, managed IT, hosted VoIP, and cloud services provider. Again, they're in downtown Minneapolis, a Minneapolis, started and run company. We're going to be telling you more about Michael's company in the time and the weeks and months ahead. We do appreciate them jumping on board and working with us. We love working with local businesses. That is our lifeblood. Also, we're going to start doing live shows at Mississippi Pub in Inver Grove Heights. It's a cool spot, but if you don't know where it is, you'd never see it. It's on the river. Unless you own a boat, you would never see it. So we want to kind of highlight where it is, how you get there, their food, atmosphere, the porch looking out on the river. We're going to start doing live shows. We will get you the dates and times of those shows as soon as we have them all lined up. But we're going to do them all through training camp. It's a perfect way, going to be a perfect place if you want lunch, between practice sessions at the TCO Performance Center. If you want to go out to dinner after the evening session, it's going to be perfect for you. Tim and I are going to be telling you a lot more about that as we go forward. Thanks to our traditional sponsors, Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com. And Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Remember, it's Hoaglund. Now that we've gotten through all the furniture, let's start with, unfortunately, the news of the week, the sad news of the week. Tony Sparano, at the age of 56, dies, and the medical reason given for his passing was heart disease.
Yeah, he was a guy that was with the Vikings anyway, a little bit more behind the scenes. He wasn't the head coach. He wasn't the coordinator. He had those different positions with the Dolphins and an interim basis with Oakland before coming to Minnesota. But, a lot of people look at what he did with the offensive line when he got here in 2016, decimated by injuries. And then 2017 really takes a line that didn't have a ton of big names. They went out and they spent on Riley Reif and they spent some on Mike Remmers. But yet that offensive line last year played much better than I expected, and I give Sparano a lot of credit. And, it's unfortunate that sometimes the stories don't come out until somebody has passed, but a lot of people, not only just Vikings players, but players that he's had in the past, really expressing their gratitude and how much he cared about them as people as much as he did about them as players. And, it was a sudden, unfortunate death Sunday morning, basically a heart attack. And it reminded me a bit of Chip Myers back in 1999. Now, after the 98 season, the Vikings go to the NFC Championship game. Brian Billick gets the head coaching job with the Baltimore Ravens, leaving the opening at offensive coordinator, and Chip Myers was going to take that over. And then he died, and same thing, heart attack. I think he was 53 years old and had that same sort of effect on players where they really loved the man as much as they loved him as a coach. And so to me, it's really going to be important to see how the Vikings handle this going forward. I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer, but this is definitely something both from an emotional and an X's and O's standpoint that will have an effect on the team this year.
Offensive lines tend to be the soul and the conscience of a football team. They tend to be players who are not egomaniacal. They have to work well with the people around them. They have to work as a unit. If they're in it for glory, they wouldn't be playing offensive line. They'd be playing a skill position or defensive line where you can do a sack dance. And the offensive line coach tends to be the drill sergeant in charge of that very important unit. And that, I did not know Sparano well. I think I talked to him a couple of times. I knew of him from people I know around the league and writers, and always heard good things about him. But he, some stereotypes are often considered to be negatives. In this case, I think he fit the very positive stereotype of an NFL offensive line coach: gruff, tough, loud, blunt, and good-hearted.
Yeah, and ultimately really seemed to care about the players behind the scenes. And I think another thing that's come out since his death is that, a lot of players have talked about, how attention to detail he is, and he can be hard on players, but they also saw the guy that, would enter the locker room later behind the scenes and, ask them how they were doing. And we've heard stories from players in the past that, still had heard from him recently, saying, hey, if I can help you in any way, just let me know. I'm always here for you. So, it's going to be a tough time for the Vikings as they kick off camp and as the veterans come in over the weekend and start practicing. And, there's not going to be Tony Sparano on the sidelines.
Right. What's going to be a delicate situation for people in our business and possibly for people in the organization as well is you don't want to talk about life and death in the same context as you talk about sports.
Right.
And so, he's going to be remembered. He may end up, his death may end up proving to be inspirational in some ways for players, but we, in our side of things, we have to, his life and times and his passing should not be equated with anything that happens on the field.
No. But I do think that the players will, have some sort of, dedication of the season, maybe, an armband with the initials, something like that will not only help them remember, and, they're not going to forget, obviously, but to kind of help tell fans, those watching on TV, we remember this guy. He was a great part of our organization. And, also, one little point of business, the Vikings have canceled their training camp practice for Friday as players and coaches and staff members can attend his funeral here in the Twin Cities.
All right. Well, listen, there's no easy transition from talking about a man dying. We're just going to kind of take a breath here. We'll tell you a little bit more about the business, and then we'll get on with the tour of the museum and the facilities that we took part in today. We're recording the show on Tuesday, by the way. All right, let's tell you more about WhizKids. Again, it's the cool thing is when Michael Thanert reached out to me, we started talking about working together. We realized we were probably speaking to each other while only about a mile apart. Again, some Minneapolis business. You can find out a lot for yourself by going to WhizKids.tech. That's WhizKids.tech. And also, as I told you before, this is really cool, innovative stuff that I'm not sure I can completely comprehend, but they can help you with your business. Locally owned, managed, IT-hosted, VoIP, Tim, you would call it VoIP,
yeah.
And cloud services provider.
Hello, Minnesota sports fans. This is Michael Thanert, founder and CEO of WhizKids. WhizKids is a Minneapolis-based managed IT, hosted VoIP, and cloud services provider. Businesses today require fast response times, skilled support staff, clear communication, and technology recommendations that align with their business goals. At WhizKids, we do this each and every day with our clients. When you call into our help desk for support or work with one of our higher-level engineers on a complex issue, you'll find our staff personable and ready to roll up their sleeves to help you solve your technology problems. Reach out to WhizKids today to find out how we can help your business meet your technology goals. Visit us online at WhizKids.tech. That's WhizKids.tech. WhizKids, make it happen.
All right. What was your first or overriding impression of touring the new museum today?
Well, I think it has a little bit of something for everyone. I mean, if you're a 20-something fan of the Vikings and you just want to hear about, the last decade or maybe since the 1998 season, they have that for you. They have the Minneapolis Miracle display. They have, the Randy Moss and Chris Carter displays there. Or if you're a fan that goes back to the inception of the franchise in 1961, they have all kinds of stuff dealing with Met Stadium, with Hub Mead, who longtime fans will remember as the original mascot of the Vikings. I thought it was a really nice mix of new technology, the fancy displays and the old displays. And, they didn't go real technological super screens or anything on all of them. Because I think when you're talking about Met Stadium, you want to see it at its roots. You want to see, the crossbar that they had and other objects, Jim Marshall's locker, his raincoat, all that sort of stuff. So I like the fact that it covered, and they even went back to Ernie Nevers playing for, the Duluth Eskimos and some of that.
I love that jersey. That was awesome. Actually, an igloo on the front of the jersey.
I know.
That was fantastic.
Yep. They had a piece of the Metrodome, which went to pieces, and so that was interesting to see a little bit of the Teflon from the roof of the Metrodome up there. I really thought they did a good job of it. It kind of reminded me of the NFL experience that travels around all the Super Bowls, and some of it you can pick up the headset and listen to all the